I want to welcome you to something we're going to try that's new. Pastor John is with me. Most of you know Pastor John.
Hello.
And we are looking to do a series of videos. We're going to keep them brief. Our goal is to help you succeed at LFCA. We have a lot in common with public school and homeschool.
We do.
We do some classes that are a little bit like a public school. We have some aspects of the school that's a lot like a homeschool. And what we're hoping is these videos that we'll start putting out, one, we want to keep them brief, and two, we want to do topics that will help you navigate school here at LFCA, maybe learn a little more about it. And today, we're going to talk about a very timely topic, and that is...
Being sick.
Yeah.
Which, right now, we don't think either of us are.
No.
But we've got quite a bit of sickness that's running through the school. So.
No. Well, I yesterday in chapel, the students were down in the sanctuary. The students are sitting in front of me, and I said, if you've been sick since the start of school, raise your hand. And I would say conservatively, and it's not counting those who were not here yesterday, I'd say at least 75% of the school, maybe 80% raised their hands. And it may have been more than that. It was a sea of hands. So we figured we'd talk about that and give you an idea so, you know, what's the school's expectations, what do we do? And Pastor John, of course, was an administrator here before me for how many years?
I don't know, 4 or 5-ish.
They all ran together?
A couple full-time, other ones I did it part-time, but. So the one thing I was gonna, I know Mr. Ancona, we have some notes here we're kind of going down. One of them is how you feel as far as fever and temperature, and you and I were talking about that. Again, just as parents, we actually had this last week with one of our girls where she was running a fever, and so we would just, again, ask you, as best you know how, if your child's running a fever, keep them home. Yep. For 2 reasons. 1, so your child's better. 2, so they don't spread whatever they have. And so, like, we had our daughter, she stayed home. She ended up coming in about 2 days later, and so far she's been fine. And I think that's kind of the idea, right? If I don't feel good, but you and I were talking that you run kind of low, so you know your kids, it can happen. A child shows up, they start running a temperature. We understand that happens. But if you know your kid runs hot or cold, just keep an eye on it, and you can help us, and we can help you with that.
Well, and that's why we're going to avoid setting a total. But basically, if your child is running a fever, as Pastor said, I run low. If I'm at 99, I've been 99.9, and I have really felt sick. Pretty sick, because I'm normally 97. So, if the school were to tell me stay home at 100.5 or 100 point something, I would be really, really sick if I was 100 degrees. And other kids may run a little hotter. So, basically, if your child is running a fever, keep them home. The second thing we were going to look at is stomach bugs. And, actually, I should back up on the fever. I would say the traditional school policy that's always been is 24 hours, or is it 48? Now I'm drunk. I think it's
24 to 48,
24 to 48 hours fever-free without medication.
Yeah.
So you're not pumping, something to try to drop the medicine down. You're not giving them cold packs. If they haven't had a fever and they're at their normal temperature for about 24 hours. The other big one, and we've already had some of this year, is stomach bugs.
Yeah, those are not fun.
No.
And I think I'll toss it to you, but I think that it's just a common thing. And again, these are not things that you've not heard before, but they're more just reminders for you and for us. If your child's not feeling good, then probably don't send them in. It varies, but when it comes to the stomach bug, if you know they've got something, keep them home. One other sort of advertisement I'll add here. My wife and I were out shopping this week, so we just bought some, wipes and some Lysol cleaner, and we have, just put them in each of the classrooms. You're still going to get sick. It happens, right? But the reality is, for us, trying to clean as much as possible. And we have a phenomenal janitor. Our custodian does an amazing job. But you can't stop everything. And so this is one of the areas, like if I know I'm sick, maybe some of you are like me, and I think Mr. Ancona is somewhat similar. I don't like to miss work. I don't like to not be here. But if I'm sick, I could get him sick. And so, I think that the rule of thumb is if you know your child's sick or you think they're going to be sick, better safe than sorry.
Well, and so, it's that simple. If they run a fever, the stomach bug, those can be pretty tricky because a lot of times the kid gets up and they may not even say anything, but we've had students that literally have walked in the door and one of us will meet them in the hallway and
Yeah.
it's like, are you okay? No, my stomach doesn't feel good.
Right.
So we know, and it's the same with colds. They can get up and then by the time they get to school, they don't feel good. And then we'll call and probably have you pick them up. So very simply, if they run a fever, keep them home for the appropriate amount of time till the fever breaks. If they have a stomach bug, if they've been sick in the night, that kind of a thing, even if it's possible it's something they had to eat, which is always a possibility, keep them home for a day, just to make sure. Stomach bugs go through the school like wildfire.
They do, and I think you and I talked about, we have a very distinct advantage. You mentioned we have things we do that are like traditional school and homeschool. Kids can work from home, and so, for instance, in the case of one of our kids last week, she was not feeling well, didn't do a whole lot of work the one day, because when you're sick, right? But the next day she was home, she did a fair amount, and then was ended up feeling better. Her fever had been off for 24 hours. Which is, I think, kind of the general rule, and she came back into school. And so they can work from home. It's not like they're going to get behind. And I think and I realized I jumped ahead. I'm so sorry to the next one, but Mr. Ancona's added some really neat things, and I'll let him talk about it, that are in the classroom. What do we do? And that was kind of what I mentioned. You're out shopping, you want to grab some wipes or Lysol. I mean, we don't want like 50 cans, but you see it, you want to grab one. It's always a blessing. We can use those things. But what else do we do, Mr. Ancona, around here in the classrooms just to kind of try to keep things as healthy as possible?
Well, and the teachers will be reminded, we tend to go through peaks and valleys, and this year it seems a little early, but September's can be bad in the past. But the teachers are being told to clean the classroom. For instance, I walked downstairs in kindergarten this morning and it was, I said, it smelled like a garden of flowers. I mean, it was a potpourri, it wasn't overpowering, but it's like, have you been doing something? Oh, I just cleaned. So teachers are being told to clean. We are doing our part. As Pastor John just said, he bought some wipes and stuff. I usually try to keep up in a supply closet, cleaning aids for disinfecting and things like that. So teachers are instructed to do that. We also do run HEPA filters in the classroom, and we try to keep up on that with the filters. And all of this doesn't guarantee that your child won't be sick, or we would have had 80% of the hands go up.
Right.
But we're hoping this does kind of drop it down a little bit. So we are doing our part on our end to try to be sure that everything goes well. And I mean, the final thing I'll just reemphasize, it is a big blessing. If you're in a store and you see something and say, oh, wow, that's a good deal, and you want to help the school out, pick something up. Sometimes teachers will have a party, they ask you to bake cookies. And a lot of the parents jump in. Well, this is another way that you can help us out. We do try to keep up on that stuff, but we can go through it pretty quickly. I would say, and I didn't put it down here, but a minor thing, be sure to send, especially if your kids are on the tail end of a cold, Kleenexes.
Yeah, good point. That's right.
Now, I'm sitting in the church and I'm looking at box of Kleenexes. We do have stashes here. But if you know what it can be like when you are on the tail end of a cold, and we do understand that you can be recovering but still sound sick for weeks.
Right.
We get that. I get that call quite a bit.
Sure.
My kid is coughing, their nose is still running, but they're probably past the infection stage.
Yeah.
We totally get that. But we will promise we probably have Kleenexes around that we can grab. But if you can send them in with something to put in their desk. And that's another way it can help.
That'd be helpful. So let me ask you, Mr. Ancona, what are we going to do for our video next time? So this one kind of is on health, and we just wanted to reiterate, your kids, right? I mean, and so ultimately be the best judge with them. We want to do our best. If there's something we can do, Mr. Ancona said, reach out to him or me, one of the teachers. But we want you to know we're praying for you. And just, use your discernment. So what are we going to do our video on next time?
Well, next time, and like I said, if you have suggestions or if you have questions, and if you're a new parent, don't hesitate to fire a question. And if you've been here for 10 years, maybe there's something but you think it would be beneficial. Send the questions in. But next time, we're gonna look at work from home. And that, I think, is one of the huge advantages we have for snow days, for sick days, or other situations. You can work from home, and the key there is communication with the teacher, contact the teacher, but we'll look at that next time.
Great.
And they will give you some great tips about how to keep your child working, and so next time, it's a perfect tag-in to being sick, because your child may be home, but there's probably things that they can do that will minimize the education loss
Yeah.
of not being here.
Well, I'm excited because I thought you were going to say you and I were going to do a duet. And
Yeah,
I thought, boy, that'll make some of the parents sick. We don't want to do that.
No.
So, no, that's great.
No duets.
But we hope this is helpful. I think it's a great idea Mr. Ancona had. We just want to communicate with you, and, you know, it takes two. So communicate with us, and, you know, it's our pleasure to have your kids and minister to them.
Yep, same here, and we'll see you next time.